The Marblehead class originally never had any draft limit, and I think in the 60s they were about 12 inches draft, and that gradually crept up to 14, 16, and eventually in my era 18 inches. The thing was that as you went deeper, you get a bigger lever arm with the lead, so you get more stability, so you can make the boat lighter and have a lighter lead. The more stability that you can get from the lead, the less you need from the hull. So hulls have got narrower, and because they've got narrower, weighted surface has gone down, and also wave drag has gone down. Displacement has gone down because you've got, as I said earlier, a bigger lever arm. So you've got a lighter boat with less wave drag and less wetted surface area, so it's got to be faster. Essentially, we're working at very, very low Reynolds numbers, which might sound a little bit technical, but essentially it means that the water appears very viscous to our fins compared to a full-size boat, which really you have to take into account when you're actually designing the fin section. The problem is that you get what's known as laminar separation bubbles. If you can imagine the flow going around the fin, whilst it's accelerating, that's fine, it's gaining energy. But once it goes past the maximum thickness of the fin, it starts to slow down, it loses energy and it eventually stops. And that forces the flow off the foil, you end up with a bubble. Now, if the water can flow around that bubble and reattach at the trailing edge before it reaches the trailing edge, that's not too bad. But if it never reattaches, you get an enormous wake and a lot of drag. And that really is the secret of designing foils to the low Reynolds numbers that we work at. If you sailed in Fleetwood, you can't get away with just an A and a B and a C rig. You have to then go smaller than that because the wind gets a lot higher. Right. But I guess there are places in the world where you very rarely use a C rig and never use anything lower than that, in which case you'd only have 3 rigs. It originally, I don't think, specified any number of rigs. You could have 20 if you wanted, or as long as none of them exceeded 800 square inches of sail area. That was then amended to 3, but essentially by bringing the mast height down, you have the same area, but the centre of effort of the sails is lower, so it doesn't have as big a heeling effect, so you can carry more sail in a stronger wind. If you have a round mast with the sail attached to the trailing edge of it, in the centre, the air can't negotiate the leeward side of the sail, so you get this laminar separation bubble that I talked about before. The idea of having a rotating rig is that the lee side of the sail becomes a smooth line, the mast and the sail together, so you don't get this separation bubble. The double luff rig is very much the same sort of idea, but you do lose sail area because they measure the sail to the front of the mast rather than the back. My own feeling is that the old way of having the sail attached by lacing so that it dropped down to the leeward side of the sail, the leeward side of the mast, is probably as good as anything, and it's simple. Well, when I was sailing, I had everything I could possibly have powered by a winch. I had kicking strap, jib sheet, main sheet, all on separate servos, and in fact I had the jib leech line on another servo so that I had control over the twist in the leech of the jib. I like a lot of functions because I can concentrate on sailing and use them, but a lot of people maybe find that difficult, so they will be better with just 2 functions, rudder and sails. I've always been of the belief that model yachting design is usually somewhat ahead of full-size design because we're able to play with a lot more cheaply. I think if you look at the way that model yachts have got narrower over the years, full-size yachts have, certainly America's Cup yachts have followed that, and generally speaking full-size yachts as a breed have got narrower. Design is very much governed by the rule. I mean, essentially there are 2 types of rules. Formula rules, where you trade length for sail area and maybe even weight, or you have rules that have definite limits to everything, which we call restricted rules. They seem to call box rules. The beauty of a box rule, or a restricted rule, is that you all start off with the same thing. It's very easy with formula rules to get boats that perform extremely well in one condition and not very well in another. box rules and restricted rules seem to be less prone to that.